So, welcome everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, um, Heidi Lance Trissel, who's a sheep farmer and a natural dyer who lives and works in not far from Harrison, Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley. Um, Heidi raises merino sheep and grows her own dye plants. And she creates a beautiful palette of subtle colors from her naturally colored merino sheep and from plant dyes. And when I have to say, when you encounter her booth at our local festivals, it's really hard not to sort of let out an audible sigh. To just, it's really striking to see the depth of her palette, the tones. She has these soft colors and jewel tones that pop up. It's just extraordinarily beautiful. And so I'm really excited to have that we have Heidi here to talk about her process and a little share her story of how she came to raise merino sheep and what took her on this path towards natural dyeing. Um, I will say today's presentation is really an invitation for conversation. Heidi has prepared a slide deck for us, and if you have questions or yeah, please drop them in the chat or raise your hand. We do want to include questions in our presentation as much as possible. So yeah, I was reading.
Oh,
Marion did a lovely interview with Heidi not too long ago, and I was reading one question that stuck out was, "What are you most proud of?" That Marion asked Heidi, and her answer was her flock and fields, which are truly a picture of that soil to soil regenerative and sustainable practice. So let's begin. Let's talk about sheep and plants.
thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you, Heidi.
Mhm. Well, yeah. So yeah, we're Simple Hill Farm. It's in Harrisonburg, Virginia, just outside of Harrisonburg, in the county. This is our farm. I just have pictures to help jog my memory of what to talk about. Um, we have 17 acres that we run our sheep on. It all started out with just a simple hill. Basically, that's where we got it from. Nothing that is on here was here before we got, yeah, we had some fencing on the outside of like half of our property, some exterior fencing, but otherwise it was just empty, open space. So yeah, when we got it, when we were starting to look at the property, this is how we figured out where our driveway would go. In the snow, but yeah, we've put in lots of interior fencing, because we do rotational grazing with our sheep. So every 3 to 5 days, we move them to new pastures. So there's sections of the fencing that was put in. It's these sections that we can then break out with movable fence. And they also we put water hydrants throughout, so we don't have to lug buckets of water around like we did when we first started. We fenced out, this is actually our property here. It's 11 acres, and then my mom has 6 acres up here that she doesn't live on. We just run sheep on, so that's the 17. And here you can see they do a really good, can you see my cursor moving?
Yes, yes, we see it.
Okay, there, my daughter showed me how to do a laser. There's our little red laser. This is, yeah, what you can see when we're moving the sheep, they really need clean out the green is what I refer to it as. They just clean out all the green, and then you get this nice little line where they're moving to next of greener grass. It's pretty amazing. But we do the rotational grazing so that the grass can regrow in between. It's usually about 45 to 60 days till they're back on that section of field. And it also allows for any worm load to hopefully not be an issue. The sheep are going to have some worms, but you don't want them to be too overloaded that they're getting anemic and sick from it. So as much as you're moving them around, then they aren't reinfecting themselves if you keep them moving every 5 days or so. So in different weather, length of pasture all affects that, but it helps reduce the amount of dewormer we have to give them. We do check them for their anemia levels. You can do an eye check to see how anemic they are. And then that helps indicate if they're looking anemic, that's when we treat them for worms. Otherwise, we don't have to, if they're looking pretty good. So this shows some of that interior fencing over here, some. There's a fence line right here. That's the lower pasture. So there's like 3 main pastures over here. And then up on our hill, there it goes across, the fence goes across there. And then up here it goes across. And we have a movable sheep shelter that we move around with our sheep because we don't have very many trees that are grown up yet. So this shelter goes along with them as our shade. Here you can see, yeah, we have all the different color merinos, from, of course, cream to dark brown, the light brown moret. We have silver. That shows some of the different colors. This is a really good one for some of the colors. Your little baby head right there. And yeah, gotta throw some lambs in. So yeah, this shows some of the, right now we have 41 sheep. I don't shear anymore except for demonstrations for groups. I used to shear them until we got about 20 and then that was my max. It took too many weekends. I'm slow. It's not something I want to spend my time on. So it's really well spent time to just have somebody else come in and do it. He's done in 3.5 hours, so it's wonderful. And again, this is our wool, the dark brown, the cream, the moret, and silvery color. And it's different years. I have different amounts. I think right now I figured out as far as the wool that was sheared this spring, I had 19 that were not white, or 18 that were not white, and 27 sheep that were white. So it's, and then kind of from there, I separate out the lots with the brown, the dark brown, as one batch for yarn. And then I had 1 year where I had enough of the moret and enough of the silver to separate those two. What I got was very, let's see here. I think I have, well, no, I took that picture out, sorry. What I got was not much of a difference between the two and the colors, the skeins, the yarn. The moret one was a little more reddish tones and the silver one was a little more gray tones. But it wasn't enough difference to separate them anymore. So they just get blended together. The first year I sent my wool to the mill, I didn't have enough of the dark brown for a batch because they have a minimum amount to do for a batch, and so they ended up adding some white into it, which made it really cool. It had a little bit of like a tweedy speckled look, but it wasn't a real dark brown that I'm now getting because I have enough dark brown to just do a batch of that. And then it varies from year to year because I think some of these girls are getting lighter wool than what they have. So as they get older, it's going gray, going lighter. So it'll be interesting to see. Every year is kind of a mystery of what I'm going to get back with the different blends. But that's a little bit. I send the yarn. The wool goes up to Green Mountain Spinnery.
Mm.
in Vermont. I tried a local mill, but it didn't, she only did one fleece and it was not what I was looking at. She only could do a thick and thin. It wasn't as fine of a spin as I was looking for. And I think just the fineness of the wool wasn't something her equipment could do. And after that, I knew Green Mountain Spinnery could do it. And they are worker end co-op. Yes, they're far away, but it did mean that I could be assured it was gonna come back the way I wanted it. So I've been working with them ever since. They've been great to work with. Their turnaround has been pretty good. We shear in the spring in March. And then if we're lambing, it's in April or May. And I usually get the yarn back by the end of the summer or fall. It's when I get the wool to them. Last year I got the wool to them kind of late, so I was getting the yarn back in the fall, and actually some of it came back in January even. But it takes me a while to skirt it. We don't put coats on our sheep, although I'm gonna get coats and put coats on them, at least half of them, when we start feeding them hay, because that's when they get really messy. And I'm ready to not have to throw out as well. We compost it, but it's a lot of wool to put around trees, and I don't want it to go all around our trees. I want it to be yarn. So we are going to start coating at least some of them and see how that goes. Hopefully they stay on, because our sheep are not hanging out around a barn or in a corral. It's easy to catch them. So if their coat is falling off of them, we'll see. It's going to be our new experiment. Hopefully it doesn't become an issue. Yeah, some of you who raised sheep, if you dealt with coats, give me any pointers, I will take them. Yeah, so this is some of the on-dyed colors of our fingering weight yarn right now. We got a really nice dark brown last time around. I did have to add some dark brown to the gray and moor it, because I didn't have enough of that for a batch. So it actually ended up more of a charcoaly color than some of our other browns have been, that are just the yeah. So that's that. And then I do over dye the gray. So this is an over dyed with madder root. That's my rainbow. Some of it. Here's another. So these are over dyed. This is indigo over the gray. This would be indigo and marigold, probably, or maybe weld even, to get more of like a green over the gray. I find this one to be really interesting. There's my gray, and then it's marigolds, but it's green. Which
So green.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Yeah, I've started to work more with exhausting dye baths than I did initially, just so I can get the lighter range of colors. Because I find that people kind of want a dark version and a light. Often goes well. This is just a bunch of the colors. As far as picking a palette, I mean, my palette is like rainbow, just getting as many different colors and variations of color. I'm still working on trying to get the like greens that I really like, which I like this one a lot. The teals is the one I'm really trying. Like I got a really good teal one time. I think I just have to have a stronger indigo vat than I do sometimes, and that's part of it. But so this is our orchard, and we raised hazelnuts, so this half, and then this is a fruits. And this is a few years ago. It looks a lot more it's overgrown now. But in between the fruit trees is where I do my dye plants, the dye garden. So you can you can see it here with the kids.
Mm.
There's indigo there. We do black-eyed Susans for eco printing bundle dyeing projects. That's why those are there and they're picking them. I grow madder. I have harvested some of the madder. Last fall is the first year I harvested. I have a box of it that's like not very
Mm.
big, and I don't know how much it's gonna die. I did a little small skeins with our madder just to try it out, but I don't know. At some point, I'll see how much yarn I can dye with it, and not have it all just be pink. But um, I tried to pick dyes to work with that I could potentially grow someday. That was the other thing when I was trying to decide which dyes to work with. And madder, yes, I can grow it. I buy it at this point for all the production dyeing, and I get it from Maywa up in Canada. And then Cosmos, I've started dyeing with the orange Cosmos. They're not super probably light fast, but I mordant with alum, so that helps hold color, but it gives a really pretty orange. Yeah, and they're also great for bundle dyeing. And Dyer's Coreopsis. I harvested a lot of Dyer's Coreopsis last year. This stuff takes forever picking off. I pick off just the flowers, but yeah, I get some beautiful, my calico cat colors is what I call them, those oranges. And they're fun. Weld, I am now, so anything yellow, I'm probably growing it.
Mhm.
That's an easy weld. I've got a good bed of weld that keeps popping up now, and that stuff's prolific, so
Yeah.
I'm set. Marigolds, I love marigolds, even though, yeah, again, they're not as light fast as weld's going to be, but the marigolds are so pretty. They just give more of a deep yellow that I like, that golden yellow. And I am growing my indigo. We're drying it out. And I'm saving it in little trash bins. And someday I'm gonna try the whole composting. I did extract into a powder a few years ago. That was fun. I just got a few tablespoons of worth of powder and threw it in a vat somewhere along the way then, and yeah, that was a long process. I want to try this one and see how this goes. But I'm collecting leaves at this point that are nice and dry. So the latest addition to our farm was building my studio building. Initially, I was working out of our house for the first few years, and every corner, literally every corner of the house, I go from one end to the next. Our house isn't real big, thankfully, but I go from one end to the next, to outside this door, outside that door, to the bathroom, and everybody got tired of all my buckets all over our one bathroom that actually has a shower. And yeah, it was a lot. So it was either stop or build something. And we had been talking about building something that we could do an Airbnb with for a while. So we made a combination of a space that we can Airbnb out as well as use for camps and events on the farm. So this is our community space. And then I have, oh, this is me dyeing before I moved everything, but that's my dye stuff. I have an burner for outside. I use my husband used to brew beer. He doesn't anymore. So I took over his keg and used this thing to heat up my dye, which is perfect because he put a little thermometer on there. Works nice. I can get 20 skeins in here pretty well. I have a nice big pot here and a burner that I use inside, electric burner if I need. But so this is my studio space. So very important. I have my desk. Best thing though is the stove, the sink. So that's been very helpful. We did put a washer and dryer in since we have the Airbnb space. Then I don't have to use our washer. We don't have a dryer in our house. So anyhow, and then I have my wall of yarn and lots of storage, and I'm overrun. Yeah, it's being well used. Been a good space. Oh, there's that picture again. This is just, oh, one of the things Kirsten asked about is my note-taking process. It's yeah, I have little die slips that I make. And it's for me to record, yeah, what mordant I use, which most of the time the mordant is alum. I don't do a whole lot really with any other. Occasionally I use iron. But mostly it's, yeah, alum, or for indigo stuff, nothing. And the yeah, so the paper records when I did the mortising, what dye I used, which water I used. So we have well water into the building, but also a large rainwater catchment tank that's collecting water off of our roof. So I have rainwater option, which is great. So some of the dyes do better with rainwater and some of them do better with the well water, which has a little more calcium in it, or those minerals. And so I can record that. I record, well, I have on there to record pH. I'm really bad about checking pH unless it's my indigo vat. And how long I did the dye bath for, what temperatures. So that piece of paper follows the group of yarn along the way, all the way to the end. So I can track what I've done to it, whether it's been washed yet or what's happened to it. When I do get the yarn back from the mill, it all has spinning oils on it, so everything gets washed. Oh, I thought I had a picture of, yeah, anyhow, our wash line full of yarn. I must have taken that one out. But yeah, and some of the wool I do keep back and do all the processing into roving. So I have my big drum carder I use for that. But anyhow, that's some of it. Any questions or anybody? Yeah.
That's great, Heidi. I am so impressed.
Thanks.
Truly. I started growing madder for the first time, and I'm going to harvest it this fall. So I too am kind of curious as to what the heck I'm going to do with it, and how much is it going to be able to dye, and how do I take it from the ground and get it processed. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean my roots are not real big. Like what I harvested, they're little tiny things, and it's just like this mass of all this little stuff. And I soaked them in water to rinse off the dirt, and like try to rinse them and wash them as best I could. And then I laid them out on a I think it was on, yeah, I just laid them out on a old sheet outside and let them dry. So, and then I blended them up to get them into little bits when I was dyeing with them. And there's like this process of like rinsing it out. So you get the orange out of it first, soaking it, and then, yeah, I have to go back over my notes on that one, but it was interesting. I'm not sure it was worth taking the orange out, but
And you have to be careful with your temperature with madder.
Yeah.
You can ask me how I know.
Oh, and how do you know? What color did you get?
Oh, no.
Well, yeah.
Wait, what color was it?
It actually went to brown. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, I heated it too high,
Mhm.
and so I lost it all. And it was like, okay, we won't do that again. And I haven't done madder again either.
So Chris, what would be the maximum temperature?
I think it's 160.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not go over 160 with
Okay.
madder.
Or
You
one-
can check on with any of the, yeah, really 140 is probably better, but definitely not over 160.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one of the best tools I got early on, I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but a thermometer that had like like when it gets to the temperature that I have it set at, it beeps.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
That's been wonderful.
mm-hmm. That would be, yeah. And you said you use paper to track your each dye thing? Have you tried the Tyvek envelopes that come with with a lot of your mailings? I know my mail-in drugs come in a Tyvek, and I just cut it because if you write on it with a permanent Sharpie, it's there, and then you can just get it wet, and it's nice.
I use well, I do put all those in a plastic sleeve, like those ring binder plastic sleeve. So I put it, the slip of paper goes in the plastic sleeve and it hangs on my ring that I made. And I use flagging tape. That's where I write the dye lot number a Sharpie so I can pair them up.
Well, I was just recycling all my envelopes that my, when Amazon stuff comes in and the the pharmacy.
That's a
that's
good idea.
Use for them.
And Heidi, do you mordant knowing what dye you're going to use in advance, or do you mordant as you go?
I usually have a plan for what's going to happen at the end. I sometimes that changes. Sometimes I want to put more yarn in, but don't have a plan for it, so I'll mordant ahead. I mean, all my alum is my mordant is alum. It's always at 15%.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you that too, because some recipes call for 10%, some 12%. Some call for cream of tartar, others don't. And I was wondering, do you just use kind of a standard 10% or 15% is what you've settled on?
I've settled on 15 and I'll reuse the mordant bath at least once. Sometimes I've reused it a third time if we're in a drought and I really need to be mordanting right now. I wish right now I am out of yarn to dye. I've dyed it all.
Congratulations.
It's not a good feeling.
Oh.
I have an abundance of water. It's running out the top of our 8,000 gallon tank, whatever that is, 10,000 gallon. I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's running out the top. I'm losing water and I just know I'm going to get this yarn back and it's going to be a drought and I'm going to be all out of rainwater.
It's hard to get it all in one place at the right time,
Sounds like it's time for another vat.
I had a question, and you may have answered this, but I'm just thinking wow, what an extraordinary amount of variables that you have, So for instance, if you're, let's say, working with madder, and you're working with maybe a strong, a medium, and a light tone as you extract the color from a particular dye bath. Are you also working on, say, like a tonal scale, light, medium, dark in your sheep based colors? And does that end up to be like sort of exponentially, like sort of, you know, nine and more, or do you feel like you have a real focus with each color, like sort of, or each dye plant, you know, that you're drawn towards marigold with the gray for the green and marigold white for the, you know, yeah.
Yeah. Not sure. Yeah.
It's just a lot. I'm just curious, like, yeah, how you make your decisions there. Is it wanting like to see a tonal the reflection of these colors on a tonal scale in the colors of your wool, or is it more of a focus on sort of a, you know, white wool and a gray wool and what they do, or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to get different tones. The gray, overdying with the gray, there was a time, it was a couple falls ago when I ran out of the white to dye. And so I started overdying more with the gray because I had gray to overdye. And the range of what you can get is limited. It was,
Mm.
I mean, you can overdye it with red and you get like your, where were those pictures? Yeah, I mean, yeah, like this
Mm.
is red. It's sort of that was getting towards like a lighter matter. And then this was a darker matter. It's a little hard to see that there, but it's, yeah, this is get a little darker. And then you have, yeah, I use logwood as a purple I use because, and I know I can't grow that one. But it gives me, we're in James Madison University's in our town. It gives me that very distinct, like bright, good purple.
Mm.
That when I do madder and indigo, it's more of a plummy purple, which is not a color I like that much. So I'm not drawn to dyeing it, but it's not the kind of purple that so anyhow, that's one extract I use is logwood. It's my one compromise to something I could not like grow myself potentially, but yeah, that look the logwood over the gray gives a nice dark purple, which is good. It's just all really dark colors. So then when I hung it all up for a show, I had all these like darker. It just wasn't as pretty. I'm like, where are my bright colors? Because I had run out of the bright colors and didn't have white to dye. And so it has meant that, yeah, when I'm getting a ram in, I'm more drawn to getting a white ram, which is kind of sad because I don't want to lose all my colored sheep either. But yeah, I've had the Morit ram is good because then I can maybe it's a recessive, so I'll get some Morits, but also get more white. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
So
Yeah.
I have a question. You have so many colors, it seems. So how did you go? How did you just start getting into this depth of color and the variety that you have? Where does this come from in you?
I don't know. I mean, the first show I did, it was like I didn't have the wall of yarn at our house. So I never put it all out together to see how it looked. And it was kind of like it was all in bins and I was like, okay, we're gonna go put it up and I get to see it all together and see if I actually have the rainbow. So that was really fun to see. Oh, good, I did get that rainbow. I mean, I worked at a dye company, Claudia's Hand Painted Yarns for a year. She just did traditional dye, like the multicolor hand painted dyed yarn. But I remember like I was exploring plant dyes and the kind of feedback I was hearing with plant dyes was, oh, you can't get a lot of color, kind of dull, it's not bright, it's yeah, like it's not, and it's not your fluorescence. I mean, except for weld, you can get a really good fluorescent with weld, I think. Um, but you can get that bright, you can get a range, and that's kind of was my goal, is to show, look, you can get a wide range of colors and depths of colors and with plants.
Yeah.
It does mean I mean, and I'm never quite sure what color I'm gonna get when I'm done with it. Like, that's the nature of it. I've
Mhm.
had a couple times where I'm like, oh, I managed to repeat what I was trying, but that's very few. So I do try to make bigger batches. I can do up to 20. Sometimes it's more of a 16 skein, just because I want to keep that rainbow and I can't put everything into one. But if I do blues, my indigo vat's only enough for 5 skeins typically. So
How often do you dye?
well, when I have yarn, I did a bunch of dyeing in January, February of this year. The goal was to get everything dyed as much as possible for Maryland by the time we sheared mid-March. So I did a lot of dyeing before that. I mean, it's in chunks because it's when I have the yarn. It's when I'm getting ready for a festival.
Mhm.
Yeah. The hope is that I have the yarn when I'm supposed to get ready for a festival. Time. I'm a little nervous about this year because the mill probably won't get it back for me in time for Shenandoah Valley Fiber Festival, but hopefully in time for SAF. Anyhow, but I need it like at least 4 weeks before. I've got to wash it, mordant, dye, wash, dry, skein, label. Like it's going to be an intensive 4 weeks if I have that.
Okay.
And I won't get it all. Yeah.
And Heidi, have you ever tried to do hand painting with the natural dyes?
I've done what I call bundle dye the yarn, and I've done that in very small batches that I've sold, but we do it more with kids and groups of people, like just throwing flowers on top of it and rolling it up and steaming it. I've thought about making like concentrates or whatever and doing the whole pour on and tray kind of thing. I don't really necessarily have the setup to heat that unless it was in a pot and then painted on, I guess. I haven't done that. I'm sticking with the solids. There's enough multicolor yarn out there. I feel like the solid colors are not as represented at festivals. Maybe it's coming around some, I think it is, but there's a lot of multicolors, so.
Do you find from year to year that there is a color change? Like a dye lot almost, depending on what the weather is for that year?
I don't know. Last year I figured out kind of groups of colors, like how many reds, quote unquote, did I sell, or how many blues. Like I sort of figured that out so I could like and have a percent of my lineups kind of be similar to that. I don't know. I mean, these colors here are the color of the year colors, what the like chocolatey browns are the color of the year. I've been selling more browns lately, so maybe that year thing is, I don't know.
Well, what I meant was when I was learned natural dyeing back in the 70s, and we were foraging. We weren't necessarily raising. And our instructor said, get as much of the plant material that you think you're going to need, then get some more. because when you go back next year, it's not going to give you the exact same color depending on what has happened to the plant. And
Yeah.
she said, even from one side of the road to the other, you will get a difference, even though it's the same plant, but its environment was
Soil content.
Yep, the soil, the rain, I mean, all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
So it was always do what, it was dialogue. Do as much as you can with what you have, because next year, it's going to be different. Might be prettier,
Yeah.
might not.
Well,
Yeah,
and that's part of why you don't get the same color every
No.
time, is just, this has been a really wet summer. That's probably going to affect how what I harvest is going to die. I end up, since I typically am not dying in the summer, we do summer camps with kids, and so that's kind of takes up my time and growing things and pulling weeds and all that. So I don't dye as much in the summer, and so I end up having to dry most of my plant materials. So it all just kind of gets mixed together, the whole year worth of harvest, or the whole summer worth of harvest.
Heidi,
So-
what plants do you grow?
So I grow I grow my weld, marigolds, the Dyer's coreopsis, the cosmos. I'm growing purple pincushion. I think you need, they make like I do it for groups of people that come, just like a little jar of it. It looks purple, and everybody says it's be purple. You pull the yarn out and you squeeze it, and then it's green. And it's beautiful green. I love it. I just think about concentrate of the percent is pretty high. So to do like a batch of 16 skeins of yarn is going to be a lot of flowers, and I just don't harvest that many. So I'm trying to figure out how to make that a production one, but that's going to be that. I don't know if it's realistic.
That would be pretty cool.
Have you ever used pokeberry?
We have it around. I have not used it, other than just experimenting, playing around with it. Haven't done a whole lot with the yarn, actually. It's more been on cloth stuff, but not much. I had one year I was like, I'm gonna harvest it and I'm gonna let it go to berries, because I always just want to chop them down because they're so but then by the time I thought it was supposed to be a berry and was looking at it, I think the birds had eaten them up or something. So it's kind of there's a whole bunch along our orchard fence row right now. I don't know. We'll see. What's your experience with pokeberry?
I did a couple years ago. I got a beautiful, beautiful, rich cranberry color, and that was great. I was thrilled with it. And then last summer, I froze the pokeberries, and I pulled them out of the freezer a few months ago and dyed with them, and I did not get the cranberry color. And I'm wondering if maybe I changed my formulation. Chris, maybe it was because it was a different season. I don't know. Maybe it was because they were frozen and they didn't like being frozen, but I'm going to try again. I may, but yeah, so I had one very successful endeavor, and then one very unsuccessful. Now, the color came out very pretty, but it's not pokeberry.
What was the color, Jennifer?
It's kind of more of a like a melon color.
Yeah.
So it was a really, really pretty color, but I'm a little hesitant to call it pokeberry because, it doesn't look like what it should look like. So,
Well, you never know with natural dyeing a plant. You never know exactly what it's going to give you until you try it.
exactly.
I mean, it's a pretty color as a plant, but lo and behold, you might get blah beige, or it might turn yellow on you. I mean, look at all the green grass that we have all around us. Well, if you use that to dye with, you get a lovely yellow.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything is yellow.
Yeah, everything turns yellow. But pokeberry can be very fugitive. So you go to all that work. I have a friend who made a gorgeous stranded sweater for her husband out of pokeberry dyed yarn, and I forget what the other color was. And it was absolutely gorgeous. 5 years later, you couldn't tell that it had,
Really?
and
Oh,
it was,
no.
That's part of why I've been hesitant to use it.
it's so fugitive.
Well, the
Yeah.
It's
color,
beautiful, but
the skeins that I did, I kept them in the dark,
mhm.
and I ended up selling them all. But up until the time that they were sold, they retained their color. Now, if somebody is going to knit something with them and
Mhm.
wash it, I have no idea,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
will happen to that. So,
I know all my samples, my dye samples from, back in the dark ages till today, they live in a dark closet. I've always kept them because I want my samples to stay.
yes.
I can always dye something and it'll be something similar, but I do want to keep my samples so that they're as true as I could keep them. And they haven't all stayed. I've had logwood and indigo, and in 20 years, it's not blue at all. It's gray.
Really? Um, yeah, I think it just, you have to really keep them covered.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, Heidi, too, it looked like you were drying your indigo.
Yeah.
How, so are you going to process that using a fermentation extraction
Mm.
after it's dried?
Well, there's a book that I have here that talks about how to compost it,
Mm.
and then you use that as a fermentation start for a vat or something. It's the kind of thing that I've read through the recipe and how to do it, but I'm just like, okay, I'm doing step number 1, drying plants.
And
Then
one
step
step at
number
a
2,
time.
I'm gonna have to buy like something, like they use a
composter.
really cute little composter that you can turn it in. That's my step number 2, but I have to justify buying this composter and figure out if I have enough leaves to put in it. But yes, my biggest thing right now is just drying the leaves, and that's where I'm at. I did the extraction with indigo where you put it in the water and let it sit in warm
Mhm.
water for a couple of days in summer, and then you like blend it up and mix things. Anyhow, that whole process, it was fun. It was a very exciting process, but it was a lot of work for very little. So yeah, I just buy my indigo at this point. And I've played around with all different kinds of vats too. My one I like the most, if I can keep it going and working, is the fermentation vat, because you can dye it. It like does better with the lower pH, which is better for the wool.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, you need some poundage there for the Sukumo vat. Let us know when you do it though, because
Okay. So we're kind of coming up on the hour, so I want to be mindful of time. Heidi, 2 things. One, do you have recommendations on reading or natural dye resources that you would want people to know about? And also tell us, I see you have a slide up. Tell us about what you have going on at Simple Hill.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we do have event stuff. So even if you're far away, the yoga yarn retreat, that's a weekend thing. You're interested, there's a local yoga instructor who contacted me about doing the retreat together. So we've been working on getting that put together. And yeah, we're filling up. So it's pretty exciting. We only have it's only 12 people because I only have a small space here. So, and yeah, then I do other little afternoon kind of workshops too that are coming up. But books, I'm looking up at my shelf here. The Art and Science of Natural Dyes is a great one. And then I like the Modern Natural Dyer book. And the one that has my indigo composting recipe is The Journeys in Natural Dyeing. Yeah. Botanical dyes book. Rebecca Burgess's Harvesting Color. Those are all ones I've used a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Does anyone want to share anything about their sustainable cloth project before we adjourn? Hopefully I'll see something fabulous from everyone, including me.
I'm sure we
I
will.
have to admit, I have not committed yet.
Come on, Jennifer.
Is there a drop dead deadline
Oh.
where?
Well, when we do our fall gathering on November 2nd.
Okay, I might be able to commit a couple of days before that, but we'll see.
You're not going to be alone.
You will
Oh,
not.
good.
And
Good.
know that there's a wonderful history of beautiful projects ending up at that celebration that are made and created even the night before.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep thinking about it, but just haven't made anything yet. So,
I know, me too, me too.
yeah. It's been a
Maybe I'll
year.
have to use that pokeberry yarn that I made, because
Indeed.
if it's fugitive, it'll last as long as the event, and then I don't have to worry about it anymore.
And always overdone.
Yep.
This is true. This is true.
Yep.
Anyone have anything else they want to add? Well, a huge thank you to you, Heidi. This was so fun to see your pictures of your farm and your yarns and talk a little bit about your journey, which I think is awesome. I'm such a fan. And thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank
You all.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. That was great.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.